Welcome to Two Woke Bonnets, a podcast where we revisit the classic TV shows of our Gen X childhoods and see how well they hold up today. With your hosts, Carol and Joey.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Prairie. This is Carol.
I'm Joey.
And we are Two Woke Bonnets. We watch Little House on the Prairie, and we discuss each episode and kind of see if it holds up in 2025. So today's episode is Ebenezer Sprague.
Yes.
They didn't even give a good title to this episode. They just went with his name.
Well, and it starts with his last name starts with S and ends with E, but there's no Scrooge.
They don't. I may call him Ebenezer Scrooge a couple of times during this podcast, and I apologize. They were heavy with the hammer on the moralizing this episode.
Cruising on a Sunday afternoon.
It is. They're not subtle with their messaging here. So we start with Hanson and Charles building a structure, which apparently is the new bank for Walnut Grove.
Yeah, with no vault, by the way.
No vault. It's got a tiny little safe. I understand Walnut Grove is a small town. I'm a bit concerned that they now have a mercantile, a bank, and a post office, but no sheriff. No law at all. Not even a volunteer position.
Yeah.
It's just no law at all. But yes, they're building the bank for Mr. Ebenezer Sprague, and they even make the connection at that point because Hanson says he was very particular and we have to be done at exactly this time or he will charge us a day's work. Yeah. He will deduct a day's work.
Well, he announces that he's deducting it, right? So
he does when he gets there, but Hanson's like, we need to be done right now. Or, he's going to, he'll say he'll deduct a day's work for each hour we're late. And I'm like, first off, Hanson, that's a bad deal.
How are you the man who has enough money to found this town if this is your deal making? I mean, let's just let's harken back. Let's recall the wood order that we had 2 episodes ago where the place went out of business and so he just stopped paying Charles as well.
So so Charles is dependent on this money and he's hoping to take a loan from the new bank. We'll get to that in a moment. But at this point they actually call him Ebenezer Scrooge, and I was curious, when was A Christmas Carol published?
It would have been in the 1800s, but I don't know.
But I don't know if it was actually published at this point. We may have an anachronism. I should have looked this up beforehand, but I completely neglect.
Carol, this would be in your
in my realm. I'm
1843. So it would have been.
We're good.
Yeah, because this was in the 1870s. Yeah, and now it's the 1970s. So
Christmas Carol has been published. So yes, they call him Ebenezer Scrooge, and Charles hopes to get a loan, and of course he shows up, and they're 45 minutes
48
past the noon deadline.
Hey, if he's going to charge by the minute, you got to know how many minutes that is. So
so he deducts a day, which of course Hanson's going to deduct from Charles's wage for building this damn thing.
Right.
So once again, Hanson has made
Charles gets a little bit shrifted on that. So
and we meet.
Is
Mr.
shrifted
Sprague.
A bad phrase? I don't know. I suddenly question the origin of all the words that I used to use as a kid. So if that is a bad word, I'm looking it up. But if that's a bad word, I apologized.
What did you say?
Shrifted.
Oh. Anyway. Mr. Sprague shows up and, of course, deducts a day's pay because they were 48 minutes late. And he is completely unnecessarily an asshole. I don't understand this business model. You're coming into a new place. You want to be their bank, you want to be their friendly neighborhood bank, and you are a complete and utter chode. It's just he's antagonistic, he's rude. It's I don't know how you anticipate doing business, but
Yeah, but I guess
whatever.
he
I guess
doesn't
he's
have
got
to
the
do
money, so
business,
what are you going to
right?
do?
So,
He
like,
doesn't have to be nice.
he doesn't have to be nice. He just has to have the money. So, but if
So,
you're not giving the money to anybody, then nobody's going to do business with you. Then
yeah,
you're not, you have to take chances on people or else you're not going to get the money back. So,
yeah. So the banking
trust
is
me, I
kind of
work at
a
a bank, you know? So,
yeah, banking is a very secure business, but it's also you have to, particularly in where he's locating his bank. He's locating his bank in a very farmer centric area. And
right.
as we know, the farmers of Walnut Grove are not very good at farming. So he's this is this is not going to be a very profitable section of Minnesota anyway. So I don't know what he's expecting. But he
Yeah, it
comes
almost
in,
makes you wonder if it's like one of these situations, and not to get too far off topic, but it's kind of like when here, we saw it definitely here in the South where developers will come in, build houses, finance it, finance it to the point that the people moving in are upside down, and then they repo it, and then they're able to resell it. I mean, unless that's his business model, which because of
he's
the story, they don't make him too evil. They make him
yeah,
very mean,
they
but they
make him
don't
mean,
make him.
abrasive. I would consider him to be rude and abrasive. He's not necessarily deliberately mean. He's just very mean. He's just rude and abrasive.
He's very
Because
suspicious. He
yeah,
suspects that everybody is only out for him for his money, which, psychologically just means he doesn't feel like he's valuable to anybody
right.
because
And frankly,
his
Charles
value
doesn't
is
help.
money.
Charles doesn't help matters because the second he meets him, he's like, "You want to come over for a home cooked meal?" And Sprague, of course, says no because
He
he thinks
assumes.
he's trying to butter him up for a loan, which incidentally Charles was kind of sort of doing.
Right. He
So
admits it. He admits it.
he
So,
admits it.
yeah.
So
So, and then, of course, Mrs. Olson thinks it's one of her kind, and she dresses up in her
she thinks it's
fanciest
like
dress. And she goes
elitist and
over with
stuff.
Carolyn, which is interesting to me because, like, she wants
Why?
Carolyn to go with her, but
And I don't know
Carolyn's going
why.
over in a very prairie house, prairie dress. Maybe just, like when you invite the ugly friend along. I don't know. I just don't get it.
And
But
again, two episodes previously, these are two women that were not who openly admitted they were not friends.
well, and Charles asked, "Do you want to hang out and chit chat with Mrs. Olson?" She says, "No, I would rather not.
No.
Thank you very much." So
So I'm not certain why Mrs. Olson asks Carolyn to tag along, but of course Mrs. Olson is put in her place because Sprague is rude to her as well.
right.
Because he tells her he left school in third grade and never went to college, and he's not elitist at all. So he just hates everybody equally. He's an equal opportunity asshole.
Well, suspicious. Suspicious.
Suspicious.
I
Suspicious.
don't think that he invests enough time to hate. He just doesn't
He just
warm
doesn't
up to
he
anybody.
doesn't
So,
care enough to warm
yeah.
up to anybody. Um, except of course one person in the entire town, but it takes a little while because he is an aficionado of fishing. He likes to fish. And who else likes to fish? Laura. Laura likes fishing so much that she's, making dough balls at the dinner table and not doing extra credit homework. She'd rather be fishing.
Because fish is brain food, don't you know?
That's right. She's gonna get smart eating those fish.
Yeah.
Unlike Mary, who's using the lone school textbook to do the extra credit work to
Point a
get the
note,
house
when
around.
she's doing her homework, what is she wearing?
Her glasses.
She's in
So
class, what is she not wearing?
her glasses.
Continuity, people. This would be an
So
important
Mary
time for her to have her glasses on because we know
Mary
that she
isn't
can't see the board. She's short. She's nearsighted. She can read the book. She can't read the board. You messed it up.
So Mary has gone from being stupid whenever the script needs her to being nearsighted whenever the script needs her to be. Stupidity has shifted to Laura at this point because wow. Laura goes fishing and meets up with Sprague. And of course she's like reeling him in with the dough balls, and his lures are getting nothing because
And he's rude to her at first. He's very rude.
Very rude.
Partially too, when she first sees
because
him,
Jack
she's
is a wild
walking with her
animal here.
pole. Yeah, yeah. So she was walking with her pole. She's going down the hill, and Jack sees the
buggy.
Which, let's be clear, Doc Baker has the buggy. Everybody has the buggy, but suddenly he goes chasing after it.
Jack is a farm dog. This is like this would not.
This doesn't make sense.
This doesn't make sense. A lot of things don't make sense in this episode. It happens because of episode. It has to happen because of episode.
Yeah.
So Jack has to chase him down, and he has to like be antagonistic with Laura at first.
And so therefore Laura has to run up and down the hill, which is on my bingo card.
Yes. And I chose when animals attack because Jack was being an animal. But they start to get along because he asks her for one of her dough balls and catches a fish. And
no, he doesn't ask her for a dough ball. He refuses the dough ball the first time.
As she's leaving, she's like, "Sir, can you please just try my dough balls?"
But he still says no. It's not till day 2 when he sits in her spot.
Yes.
And she goes and sits in his spot and immediately catches another fish with the dough ball that she goes over and says, "Listen, dodo head. Yeah. Try a friggin' dough ball." And he does it just to shut her up and immediately catches a fish.
Yeah.
It's on day 2. I'm sorry. I have to correct you. That's just
yes. And I know you watched the episode like 5 minutes ago, and I watched the episode 5 days ago. So yes. I'm probably going to need
because that's how Joey does things. Because I am Dory the fish, and if I watch it and wait 5 days, I won't remember Jack or Diddley or Ebenezer. So there you go.
So finally they've warmed up to each other and they're talking, and she quotes Emerson and she says that her pa reads her Emerson at night, and I'm like, oh yes.
While he's playing the violin and chawing on
while he's fingering the fiddle. No, I'm not believing for one instant
figuring out the math. But anyway,
I'm not believing that for one instant. But excuse me while I remove a cat. So they get friendly, and he gives her a ride home, and he's telling her stories.
Who is not there when he gives her the ride home? Jack, who follows her both times. Suddenly, when she needs a ride, where's Jack? No justice for Jack. Either she sent Jack ahead, or she made Jack run after and go. And he's not.
Made that poor dog walk from Minnesota to Kansas. So anyway, this is where the episode just completely lost me, because he gives her a ride, not to her home, of course, but to like the top of the hill leading down to their farm.
Right. And then she says, "You can let me out now."
Yeah. And she goes there and she tells everybody about her new best friend. She met him fishing. It's her new best friend. Not once in either of these encounters, or the next one, because I think they have a third fishing trip before the fallout, do they tell each other their names. She does not introduce herself as Laura Ingalls, even though every
the first time it makes sense because he's trying to ignore her.
Yeah.
But once he goes to give her a ride,
why would you not say, and this is Laura Ingalls who introduces herself to everybody. Personally, I think she would have walked up to him that first day, even though he's rude, and said, "Hi, I'm Laura Ingalls."
Yeah. And but also, like, it's a small town.
Small town.
How do we not know this? But yeah.
And he, of course, cannot give his name.
Episode.
Yes. He can't give his name, even his first name, because his first name is freaking Ebenezer. If she goes home and says, "I met a new friend, Ebenezer," they're immediately going to know who this is.
Yeah.
They should know who this is anyway. It's the only new person in town. And here, I think we need another new square for the bingo card. Ma and Pa suddenly become bad parents because not once do they say, "What's your new friend's name?" Not once do they say, "How old is your new friend?" If my 11-year-old daughter came home and said, "Have a new best friend," and by the way, forget you, Olga, with your mismatched shoes. You're no longer my best friend. Have a new best friend, this middle-aged man.
Yeah.
I know his name. Would you not say, "I'm going to go fishing with you tomorrow so I can meet your new best friend"?
Or
They're just
something.
like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you're just hanging out with a dude and you don't even know who he is." But yeah, but we can't
Well,
because
and
if
the
you,
other thing too is if she's bringing this home much fish home every day, does that mean that Pa's just stopped trapping those days and now it's her job
yeah,
to bring home the fish?
yeah, if she's
Or
bringing
does the
home like
mom
6 or 7
down and
fish,
like pack it away? Like she's bringing home enough fish for dinner every night.
yeah, I'm assuming they're salting this and storing it or something like that. But we also don't see farm at all. But he wants to go to the bank and ask for a loan to buy more acreage,
Right.
which
Because
he
he thinks
does
he
and is
can do it.
immediately turned down
Well,
because,
he waits a couple days to tell
well,
him.
he does wait
But
a couple days, but he's immediately turned down. And here again, I'm not really I'm a little bit on Sprague's side because it is a brand new bank and this guy's immediately asking for a loan. But what did you think was going to happen when you opened a bank in a small town with farmers?
yeah.
They're going to
I
immediately
mean,
want
and
loans.
he's just very rigid because we even see Mr. Taylor. We see Mr. Taylor twice, and all the guy is trying to do is deposit his money, and he pulls down the curtain on him
Yeah.
the first day because it's after 5. It's 5:04. Sorry, we're closed, or whatever. Anyway, so
But
then we get to plot device number 2.
yeah,
The
the school needs
school
books.
needs books.
So the
So
town's
Mrs.
women,
Ingalls, yeah. So Mrs. Ingalls is supposed to go the east side of the country, and Mrs. Kennedy's supposed to do the west side of the country, and Mrs. Olson is supposed to do the town because that's what they all did last year. And
I'm not sure what they
and uh,
were asking for
and so
money
the
for
other
last
8
year, but
women that are there are evidently useless, but it's fine. And so she needs readers and everything. And honestly, when you first hear her say it, it sounds like she just needs one of each book. But
yeah,
that's not it.
that's not it.
They need
They
enough
want
for
one for each
everybody.
child. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
so
which
they're
I
supposed
think
to
in
try
this
to raise the
particular
money.
case, at this particular time, they'd probably have one per household.
Right.
I don't think they'd send Mary and Laura home with the same identical school book. It would be per household, just to keep things a little bit less
Economical.
expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But so Mrs. Olson, of course, doesn't want to talk to Sprague anymore, so she drags Carolyn over again, or she tells
And
Carolyn
makes
to
her
go.
do it.
Yeah, she tells her to go talk to him, and of course, he turns her down flat immediately.
And now
There's
again, there's a plot hole here because when Mrs. Olson asked to meet there, yes, she was never introduced, but she walked in and talked to Charles.
yeah,
And so it was clear that she was kind of there for that. So, but anyway, but he's like, "Oh, you must be Mrs. Hanson because you're admiring the woodwork." And she's like, "No, Charles Ingalls." And then he implies that she's there to slut it up. Excuse my language. If you have small children listening, I
yeah.
apologize
Well,
now.
I just dropped,
But
you know,
the
I'm an
wiles of
asshole. So
the wiles of
the
women
wiles of a woman
in her full upright collar and bonnet with her hair up.
with
She
her
is there
8-yard
to
fabric
clearly
dress.
to seduce him and for no other reason. So then
So
she gets mad at him and leaves. And Charles, of course, doesn't go down and defend her honor. That's
no, he
not
just
really
says we're not
important.
doing business with the bank. We're not going to
Right.
talk to him anymore, and we're not going to do any business with the bank.
Which
Which,
I think it's also interesting too, is that when he starts talking about the loan that he's been dreaming of, clearly, because he's doing all the math,
yeah,
she even says to him, "I thought we weren't going to go on credit anymore." And he says, "But
yeah.
this time it's
But this
special."
time it's a bank. It's not the Olsen. It's
So
someone
anyway,
else we're going into debt with. But
yeah.
yeah, he's like, nope, we're not doing any business with the bank at all. And then the next day, the girls are going to school and they see Mr. Sprague uh, driving his buggy to the bank, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because he lives in the bank. So
No,
I guess he
I
went for
thought
a
he
morning
was
ride.
leaving to go to the fishing
Oh,
spot.
okay. Um,
And she said, I'll be there. She said, I'll be right there.
oh,
So he
okay.
doesn't wait and give
Okay.
her a ride because he's so nice like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nellie says, "Oh, that's evil Mr. Sprague.
Why are you
Um,
even talking to
why are
him?
you
Yeah.
talking to him? He's awful. He's terrible. He's really made himself just unlikable to every person in town. I don't know how he anticipated this bank to succeed. But yeah, Nellie tells her that's evil Mr. Sprague, and Flora's horrified and goes to
Heartbroken. Yeah.
yeah, wow. She cries. And she goes to the watering hole and he accuses her of being his friend just to get her dad alone. So that's two Ingalls women that he's basically accusing of using their womanly wiles.
And she cries herself to sleep in her
Yes.
nightcap.
In her nightcap. So there are nightcaps.
But where,
Um,
and here again, so she's in bed and she falls asleep, and dad is sitting there talking to her. Where's Mary? Doesn't Mary usually sleep right beside her?
yeah,
Why
I guess
isn't
she's
he
still
talking to both girls?
yeah,
She downstairs because she's having a hard time reading because she's not wearing her
wearing her
glasses right.
glasses.
So sorry if I was too loud if you're listening on audio.
Anyway, um, he's like consoling her because, I'm sorry, your friend is a complete dick. And he's mean. He probably just doesn't love himself. And the
Yeah,
next
so
day,
he's so understanding to his daughter, and then after a full night's sleep, he gets up and is a raging bull and goes into there.
yeah, and yells at Sprague and says, "That little girl cried herself to sleep last night. She just was, you were her best friend." I'm like, seriously, maybe a little age appropriate best friend would be better for
But
Laura at this
also, like
point.
4 days in, maybe your daughter has
Yeah,
attachment disorder. Like,
yeah. You
maybe we
might want
should
to
discuss this.
you might want
Yeah.
to sit down with your little girl and discuss how she's just jumping from best friend to best friend. And this is a completely inappropriate best friend. I
Yeah.
mean, it's okay to have a fishing buddy, but this is weird. This is kind of a little weird. But he tells Mr. Sprague off and says, you broke a little girl's heart, you meanie. You're absolutely worthless. And Sprague has a change of heart and buys the books for the school.
Well, he's shown in a bed with his glasses on the quilt because he wears his glasses when he's supposed to, and he's crying by the stove by
Yes.
himself alone in this little house. And which where it's not made clear where he's living.
No,
I
it's in the
mean,
bank. There was
it's the back of the bank.
it's the back of the bank. Yeah, when he
Okay.
closes the door on Hanson, that's the living quarters that
Oh, okay. Okay.
he had built.
Well, I missed that part. Okay. So then the books arrived and
Yeah.
they're all wrapped, and
And
the
one
freight
of them is
man and the other
Emerson.
person delivers them, and it's Ralph Waldo Emerson and McGuffey Reader.
Yes.
And so she goes down to find him, and he has
He
caught a
brings
whole
one of
mess
the
of
books.
slip fish thanks to her dough balls, which she didn't give him. So
No,
how did he get that fish unless he stole her idea and he's making dough at home, which doesn't seem like something
doesn't
he would
seem like
do.
he would. I'm curious what I mean, they don't have a restaurant yet, so I'm curious to know where he's like, I guess he cooks. He doesn't have a wife, so I'm guessing he's cooking himself because,
Fish. Yeah.
yeah. But
So
yeah, he's got
anyway,
a mess of
but then
fish.
they have a tearful moment, and then she suggests that it looks like he's got enough for 6 people
Yeah. So
because
let's go have
suddenly Carrie comes back. But does she speak? Dang it,
no,
no.
no,
I
she does
needed
not
her to
speak.
speak.
She does not
And
speak.
yeah,
But
so she gets
he
the reader and all this
accepts
stuff.
her invitation to go have a meal at the Ingalls. And I'm sure at this point he gives Charles the loan. We don't hear, but
No,
I'm
he
sure
does in the after narration.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So so
So
Charles
even
goes
after
back
he
on
says,
his word
I'm not,
again.
I would never even take a loan from you. But yeah.
So
So,
Charles
and
goes
the
back on
interesting
his
thing,
word
like
again.
now he'll go to dinner because he's bringing the fish. So therefore, he's not really taking anything from them other than his Mrs. Ingalls, the wiles of the woman's ability to cook, and a chocolate cake. She did contribute a
She
chocolate
did,
cake.
yeah, she
So,
made a chocolate cake and it was the best chocolate cake ever because it's mine. She makes the best chocolate cake ever.
well, she's
This
the
is
best
such
cook
a
ever. Yeah.
this is such a heavy-handed episode.
You know what? I still enjoyed it.
I this was one of my
I
least
knew
favorite.
walking into it that you thought it was poorly written, but
And I
dang it,
do.
I cry at AT&T commercials. Bring back the good AT&T commercials. But anyway,
Oh,
but yeah,
this one
so
bugged
Matt and I
me.
enjoyed watching it. We had our little awe moment, but we are just such sappy suckers over here. So enjoyed it. But yeah, if you watch, it's one of those things, don't watch it too closely because
Yeah, you'll pick it
just,
apart. I pick it apart because I've seen it like 10 times. But every time I watch this episode, I'm like, I don't know how this man succeeded at all.
yeah.
And I would say, how did he not immediately get robbed? But that will come because there's no law any
Spoiler,
longer.
spoiler. Okay, so let's
There's no
talk
law.
about yeah, so that's how it goes. I did not get bingo. Did you get
Neither
bingo?
did I. I did. I came close. The only
I
thing I did not have was ethnic stereotype,
I
which I'm
had
thankful for. I'm glad that
I
they
had,
didn't do that.
I had 3 rows of 4 and 2 rows of 3, and I still did not get it. So I had bingo card number 7. I
I had
gave
9.
myself credit for the 1970s woke moment because he explains to Laura, Pa explains to Laura that sometimes you just have to do that. Also, can I just talk? Okay, so first of all, we didn't point this out. Victor French directed this episode, Mr. Edwards.
Okay, I didn't notice that.
Um,
I knew in
the
the back of my
opening
mind. I thought,
credit music was different than normal Little House on the Prairie music. The opening credit music had a very Burt Bacharach kind of
yeah,
piano-y sound. And I was like, that's kind of a 1970s moment for me too. But anyway, um, the other woke moment was that Pa admitted that he did invite him to dinner in hopes to
in
charm him a
hopes to
little
kind
bit
of charm him a little
because
bit.
it kind of bothered him. So
Yeah,
uh, we did have nightcap scene when Laura was crying herself to bed. We do have 2 folks people in this episode that only appear in this episode, never to be seen again. Laura runs up and down the hill chasing when Jack scares the horse. Jack is wild animals attack.
yep,
Ma and Pa share a knowing look when
yep,
Pa admits why he invited him over. Someone gets hurt. First, Jack got whipped by Mr.
yeah.
Sprague, and
That's
that
right.
wasn't good. And also, Mr. Sprague hurts his finger on the hook because
Yes.
Laura has to teach him how to fish, even though he's got the
Because even though he's
newfangled.
and incidentally, he tells Harriet that, he quit at 3rd grade, and he tells Laura that he was fine without books. He did fine without books.
But then he
Or yeah,
tells her
no,
about how he
he tells
studies.
Carolyn. He tells
Yeah,
Carolyn he did fine without books. They can do fine without books. But then he tells Laura that he's read all these books on fishing. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm sure you didn't become a banker without some sort of reading, sir.
yeah.
So it's just, yeah,
He's just self-taught.
he's just
So
being
free
a
space,
jerk to
justice
be a
for
jerk.
Jack. And Harriet commits a crime. She commits a couple here, but the biggest one is that she is very insulting about all the townspeople to their
Yes.
faces. And
Well,
I feel
Harry,
like
you have to
that
do
was
business
just,
with these people.
yeah. So we'll talk about our guests in a moment, but we have guests that were both on Gunsmoke and Bonanza. So you get credits for both of that. Ma definitely has an Oh Charles moment. And then Laura gets in trouble because
Yes, because she's doing
she's
fishing
going
stuff
fish
rather than
instead
her
of
homework.
doing her homework. She gets in trouble with Mr. Sprague because he thinks that he ends up running his buggy into a tree
Yeah.
and
Which
different things.
incidentally,
And then Laura definitely cries.
yeah,
So, I mean, like, the really sad thing is I was hoping that there was going to be popcorn in bed or someone dies. If either of those two things had happened, or if somebody had mentioned lemon verbena, I would have had a bingo. But those three
yeah.
things did not happen.
I
Even if we
had
wanted Mr. Sprague to die, the only
he
thing that would have
doesn't.
counted is maybe the fish died, because
Yeah.
obvious that cooked to
I
death.
had two fours. Ma did not cry, oddly enough, in this episode. Pa
No,
did.
she didn't, but Pa did, yeah.
Um, and then that kept me from a bingo, and then ethnic stereotype, which I'm very glad they didn't do in this episode, also kept me from a bingo. I did claim 2024 unwoke moment because she is hitching rides with a dude she does not know and
Yeah.
has never introduced herself, and her parents are fine with it.
I don't question it for a second.
They don't, yeah,
Yeah,
not a question at all. So yeah, those two kept me from
from
getting a
bingo.
bingo. I had card number 9. Uh but yeah,
Okay.
this is a this is a morality episode, and to introduce us to the bank and Ebenezer Sprague, who will come back for a few whenever they need a bank, basically.
Okay. So let's talk about Ebenezer Sprague. So the character is Ebenezer Sprague. His the actor is actually Ted Gehring. He was in a couple different episodes of Battlestar Galactica, both the 1970s version and the
Yeah,
1980s
horrible
version,
80s.
but not as really a notable character. He was in a couple episodes of MASH and would be recognizable from there. Um, in total, he was in over 179 episodes, TV appearances. He also is definitely one of those character actors that must have impressed, you know, Michael Landon, because not only was he in 8 episodes of Bonanza as various characters and 5 episodes of Gunsmoke as various characters, but he will be in 5 total episodes of Little House on the Prairie. He was in season 1, episode 1 as Ed Stacy, clearly not
Yeah.
memorable enough. And then the next 4 episodes, he'll be Ed Sprague. A couple more this season, and then one in season 5, I think.
Yeah,
He
and
was
then I think
also
he
in an
sues the
episode
bank.
of Father Murphy, and he was in a couple episodes of Highway to Heaven. So he continued his relationship with Michael Landon as a character actor. None of them was he like doing crossovers.
No.
It was one of those scenes. So Mr. Taylor, we saw him twice in this episode. Once he was trying to give his money, and the second time after he had successfully deposited his money while the bank was still open, and he walked out as Pa was walking in to yell about breaking Laura's heart. That was by a guy named Ed Crick. He was in 33. He has 33 acting credits. This was only his second credit ever. So he only had a couple lines, but he does go on to appear in A Highway to Heaven, and he has 33 total acting credits. Then we have Johnny, who was sitting in the front row saying that he didn't have a book and they told him he would have to borrow it.
Yep.
He is definitely the epitome of a disappearing townfolk. That is his one and only acting credit ever. But most notably and interesting, do you remember the freightman who brought in the box
Yeah.
and had kind of there was 2 men that brought in a box.
I brought in the box of books.
One kind of has his back to him. The other one is the one with the clipboard that has her sign, kind of has a little bit of bug eyes and stuff like that.
Cats are funny.
Yep. That was a gentleman named Sunshine Parker. And for me, so he goes on to appear in 5 episodes, just incidental characters. He's a worker here, a freight delivery person there, a guy named Parley one time. Nothing, not a reoccurring actor. But do you remember the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze?
Yes.
Do you remember the old man that he rents the barn from?
Yep.
Emmett? that's Sunshine Parker.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we worked a good long time.
Yeah, and he was in 3 episodes of Bonanza. So he counts as a Bonanza person too. So you've got both Ted and Sunshine were in Bonanza, and then Ted was also in Gunsmoke. So a filler episode. It allows Pa to have more acreage. It introduces Ebenezer Sprague as the bank. It also talks about the fact that Mankato is growing, and that's what's driving the need for them, because they can sell all that food to Mankato. But of course, the best he will keep for his family.
All that food that they don't seem to be growing, because Pa seems continually working in town, and I don't ever see him. I think we've seen Carolyn behind the plow more than we've seen Charles at this point.
Agreed.
So that is Ebenezer Sprague.
Yeah.
Third episode of season 2.
Yep.
And we will see you next week for the big inning. Baseball
with
time.
the green stockings. Nothing to be compared with the White Sox or the Red Sox or the Black Sox.
And Carol will have some choice words about that episode as well. But until next time, we'll see you later. Be sure to check us out, www.twobonnets.com. Get your own bingo card. We're on Facebook. We'll be back on TikTok here shortly. I haven't done much with TikTok because TikTok's kind of
we don't know what's happening with it.
We don't know what's happening with it. We are on Facebook, and you can catch us on the web. So until next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Two Woke Bonnets. To find out more and to download your bingo card, visit twowokebonnets.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever fine video and audio podcasts are played.